Na bila shaka mtazamaji, ni picha za moja kwa moja kutoka katika majengo ya bunge ambapo kikosi cha walinda usalama bado kingali kinaendelea na matayarisho mbele ya kumpokea rais wa tano wa Jamhuri ya Kenya William Ruto. Picha hizi ambazo unaona ambaye anawasili kwa sasa ni naibu rais Rigathi Gachagua ambaye amekaribishwa chini ya ulinzi mkali kuingia katika majengo ya bunge. Ni ishara tosha kwamba kuanzia sasa hivi muda wote Rais William Ruto atakuwa anawasili katika majengo ya bunge na ambapo atakuwa anakagua gwaride la walinda usalama, kikosi cha jeshi. Kisha baada ya hapo atakuwa anapokelewa na spika wa bunge yote mawili, ikiwemo bunge la kitaifa ambayo inaongozwa naye Moses Wetangula na bunge la seneti ambayo inaongozwa na aliyekuwa gavana wa Kilifi Amason Kingi, ambapo baada ya hapo watakuwa wanamkaribisha katika bunge ili kuweza kutoa hotuba kuhusiana na mfumo wa bottom up na ni jinsi gani taifa itaweza kusonga mbele. Kumbuka kwamba hotuba ama rais wa tano wa Jamhuri ya Kenya William Ruto anaingia mamlakani wakati ambapo kulikuwa na kivumbi ama kinyang'anyiro kikali katika uchaguzi wa Agosti tarehe 9 baina yake na yule mpinzani wake ambaye alikuwa mgombeaji wa urais kupitia muungano wa Azimio la Umoja wa Kenya, Raila Odinga, na mahakama ikawa imeamuru kwamba Rais William Ruto ndiye mshindi katika uchaguzi wa Agosti tarehe 9. Kwa sasa kama nilivyokuwa nimekuarifu hapo awali kwamba huenda shughuli za usafiri katatizika katika majengo ya bunge wakati ambapo Rais William Ruto atakapokuwa anawasili mbele ya kufungua bunge kwa mara ya kwanza. Kumbuka kuanzia siku ya leo baada ya bunge kufunguliwa, hivyo basi mabunge yote mawili yatakuwa yanaendelea na shughuli za bunge kama kawaida. Kumbuka haya yanajiri ama shughuli nzima ya kufunguliwa kwa bunge siku ya leo inajiri wakati ambapo pia bunge la kaunti ya Nairobi watakuwa wanafanya uchaguzi wa kumchagua spika. Na usisahau kwamba shughuli yote inajiri siku ya leo ikiwa ni tarehe 29 Septemba mwaka wa 2022. Kumbuka haya yanajiri tu wakati ambapo Rais William Ruto amekuwa akifanya vikao tofauti. Hiyo jana alifanya kikao na siku ambayo ilitangulia siku ya jana, na kuhakikisha kwamba analainisha kila sekta na kuhakikisha kwamba kila kitu kipo shwari. Na kumbuka pia vile shughuli nzima inajiri wakati ambapo tayari mawaziri wamesha chaguliwa ama wameteuliwa. Hivyo basi watakuwa nasubiri idhinisho la bunge, na ambapo wabunge watakuwa na waidhinisha wale mawaziri ambao tayari wameshachaguliwa. Na usisahau pia vile kumekuwa na cheche na hisia mseto kuhusiana na baraza la mawaziri la William Ruto. Kumbuka ni rais wa tano wa Jamhuri ya Kenya na amechaguliwa wakati ambapo kumekuwa na joto kali la siasa, na ambapo rais mstaafu Rais Uhuru Kenyatta alikuwa na muunga mkono kinara wa upinzani Raila Odinga katika uchaguzi wa Agosti tarehe 9. Hivyo basi hii ni ishara kwamba ama kikao cha siku ya leo ni ishara kwamba shughuli zitakuwa zinang'oa nanga, na shughuli za serikali pia vile zitakuwa zinang'oa nanga kama ilivyokuwa hapo awali. Kwa hiyo ni mikakati tu ya kuhakikisha kwamba taifa inarejea katika hali yake ya kawaida chini ya rais ambaye alistaafu, alikuwa anafahamika kama Rais Uhuru Kenyatta. Hivyo basi siku ya leo ni siku muhimu sana kuhakikisha kwamba mabunge yote mawili yatakuwa yanaendelea na shughuli nzima. Na usisahau kwamba Rais William Ruto kuhutubia bunge ama kufanya ufunguzi wa bunge, hii ni kulingana na katiba ambayo katiba inamruhusu rais ambaye amechaguliwa kufanya hotuba yake ya kwanza na kuhutubia wabunge na Wakenya kwa jumla. Manake kuna masuala chungu nzima ambayo yatakuwa yanatarajiwa, ikiwemo sera na ikiwemo ni mikakati ipi ambayo imewekwa kuhakikisha kwamba wanaweza kufanikisha ile ajenda ambayo walikuwa wamewaahidi wa Kenya. Na haswa kile ambacho kinatupiwa jicho kwa sasa ni kuhusiana na mfumo wa bottom up ambao ulimwezesha Rais William Ruto kutua madarakani na kuwa rais wa tano wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Picha hizi ambazo unatazama kwa sasa ni ya moja kwa moja kutoka katika majengo ya bunge ambapo walinda usalama kikosi cha jeshi na aina tofauti tofauti za walinda usalama wapo pale mbele ya kumpokea rais wa 5 wa Jamhuri ya Kenya, ambapo atawasili kisha atakuwa na kagua gwaride na ambapo atakuwa anapokelewa na maspika wa bunge yote mawili, spika wa bunge la kitaifa Moses Wetangula pamoja na spika wa bunge la seneti ambaye ni Amason Kingi na ambaye alikuwa ni gavana wa kaunti ya Kilifi. Tayari tumemwona naibu rais Rigathi Gachagua ameshawasili katika majengo ya bunge, ishara tosha kwamba muda wote kuanzia sasa rais William Ruto atakuwa anawasili pale, kisha atakuwa na kagua gwaride na ambapo atakuwa ana saini karatasi ambazo atakuwa yamewasilishwa na wale maspika ya mabunge wote mawili, kisha atawasili upande wa ndani na baada ya hapo atakuwa anahutubia wabunge kuhusiana na vikao vya bunge na ni jinsi gani wataweza kushirikiana. Kumbuka ni wakati ambapo rais William Ruto anahitaji sana mabunge ili kuendesha shughuli za serikali. Kwa sasa mtazamaji, wacha tuchukue mapumziko mafupi.
You are watching TV47, the home of untold stories.
This fall, a new dawn rises in the Kenyan entertainment.
Anawasili na kuhutubia mabunge yote mawili. Wacha tuvuke moja kwa moja. Mie sina la ziada, nitakuacha ama nitakuvusha moja kwa moja hadi katika mabunge majengo ya bunge tuone ni kipi ambacho kinajiri kwa sasa. Shukrani za dhati na asante sana kwa muda wako.
by Moya present and ready for inspection. Stop. Excellent. They have the permission to carry on with the production.
well as from foreign countries who will be seated at the Speaker's Gallery following up on that particular address by the President. And just to mention some of the issues that are key to the heart of Kenyans is the cost of living, that you expect the President to outline his agenda on how his government will ease in the burden of the cost of living, matters of the national unity to ensure that the country is united irrespective of what side anyone might have voted during the 9th of August agenda, as well as the legislative agenda, which is key for his government to deliver on their promises to the country at large. If you're just wondering about the numbers in the chamber, it's a fully packed house. We have 349 members of parliament. We already have 47 elected senators, as well as a number 20 who are nominated, bringing the total to the number.
Endow our members of parliament, current 13th parliament and senate, wisdom as they debate and formulate new laws. We pray that your Holy Spirit may suppress them in all selfish desires, both personal and party-driven, that often lead to subjective legislation that in the long run hurt our collective dreams and aspirations as a nation. We pray that you stir up them to be sensitive to your will as they discharge their duties. We ask you, O God, also to look after our judicial system. We continue to pray that Kenya will uphold justice as a country that observes the rule of law. We now pray for the judiciary and its officers that the executive, as they execute their mandate, they will always strive to ensure that justice rolls on like a river that never falls. May you, in your mercy, remember the Chief Justice, Mother Koome, her deputy, Philomen Muilu, and Judicial Service Commission, judges of the Supreme Court, judges of the Court of Appeal, judges of the High Court, and magistrates across the country. We thank you for these, your servants, and ask for godly wisdom on them as they interpret laws and pass judgment in seeking to settle disputes, that they will always be directed by truth. May you keep them away from evil forces that are bent on compromising their independence and professional conduct, so that justice may prevail at all times, regardless of the state of the persons involved. May you fill them with the spirit of boldness, so that your name may be glorified. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, we pray. Amen.
Ashirangai Baba. Amagra yoga la galarangop. Negra galurangai na saba na shuna yota galua alari ko nilang. William Samuel Ruto. Mara ninya alari ko nilang. Wala sudira ninya. Yo mo ni yanga yang. Tama yana ni jangai. Veri ko re nyabo ogin. Ministrani ngaya na saba na shu. Tara maraba ogin. Rubunga yo sanarani. Wala sudira ogin. Amuya na shoy na rigori. Jo mero bigi. Jo rigi yo residai. Jo yo mero rigori residai yo la rodian. Amuya lo ben yo bogin. Nerigi yo mero rigainet. Nerigi yo gangai ranjabai. Ngaya na saba na shu. Iro yo kolorong anak. Ngaya na saba na shu ay golang. Be mero mana neme barungani. Amu mbana yo olongani orar kala. Ngaya na saba na shu je rigi yo residai. Tonga rimbogin. Nigi jorame rame lonake. Anao monanga masai. Meraba irano olonyi bor. Naba yana koi merek. Meroro bilo. Ena ngurugan gideng. Meroro bilo. Eno oloria le modindar. Meroro bilo ana laragwa. Lele badun. Emeshi bishigwana. Ngonya kwa angariak. Merale ngano alari. Meroro bilo ra. Erugora anga kenya roberari. Mera heroba ogino logon. Ando rigi yore sidai. Ando rigi yore sidai. Ando robilo na bogin. Ando robilo. Ronya raigin olar yoling. Amen.
Your Excellency, the President, the Right Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Members of Parliament, invited guests, you may now take your seats. Order, members. Your Excellency, Honorable Dr. William Samoei Ruto, CGH President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, the Right Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, the Honorable Moses Wetangula, EGH MP, Honorable Members of Parliament. Article 132(1) of the Constitution of Kenya requires the President to address the opening of each newly elected Parliament. By a letter reference number OP/CAB.26/417/Volume 1, 38, dated 21st of September 2022, His Excellency the President notified the Speakers of Parliament of his intention to address the newly elected Parliament on Thursday, 29th September 22, in the National Assembly Chamber, Parliament Buildings at 2:30 p.m. Accordingly, and pursuant to Article 132(1)(a) of the Constitution, and further pursuant to Standing Order number 24(1) of the Standing Orders of the Senate, by Gazette Notice number 11266, which was published in the Kenya Gazette of 22nd September 2022, I gave notice of this joint sitting to all honorable senators. Honorable members, this joint sitting is therefore properly convened. I thank you.
Your Excellency, Honorable Dr. William Samoei Ruto, CGH, President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, the Honorable Speaker of the Senate, Right Honorable Amason Kingi, the Honorable Lady Justice Martha Koome, EGH, Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, Honorable Members of Parliament, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Article 132(1)(a) of the Constitution of Kenya requires the President to address the opening of each newly elected Parliament. In this regard, pursuant to the provisions of Article 132(1)(a) of the Constitution and the provisions of Standing Order number 21 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, and by Gazette Notice number 11265, which was published on 23rd September 2022, I gave notice of this joint sitting to the members of the National Assembly. Accordingly, honorable members, this joint sitting is properly convened. Your Excellency, it is also custom of Parliament to recognize invited guests seated at the Speaker's row, the Public Servants' Bench, and the Speaker's Gallery. I therefore wish to recognize the following guests who are seated in the Speaker's row. Her Excellency Mama Rachel Ruto, First Lady of the Republic of Kenya, and members of the First Family. His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, Deputy President of the Republic, and Mama Pastor Dorcas. We are also pleased to host the former Vice President of the Republic, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, EGH. Also in the Speaker's row this afternoon are former Speakers of the Houses of Parliament, the Right Honorable Justin B.N. Muturi, my immediate predecessor, and the Right Honorable Governor Kenneth Lusaka, EGH. Your Excellency, allow me to also recognize the Chairperson of the Council of Governors, the Honorable Anne Waiguru, EGH, who is the Governor of Kirinyaga County. Also present is the Honorable Johnston Sakaja, Governor of Nairobi County, the Honorable Martine Moshisho, Chairperson of the Deputy Governor's Caucus, who is the Deputy Governor of Kajiado County. Also in the Speaker's row is the Honorable David Maraga, EGH, former Chief Justice of Kenya. I equally recognize one George Luchiri Wajakoya, who was a presidential candidate. in the last general election. Your Excellency, last but not least, allow me also to give a special mention of the Chief of the General Staff, General Dr. Robert Kariuki Kibochi, and the respective service commanders, the Deputy Inspector General of the National Police Service, and other leaders of our disciplined forces that are all seated at the bar of the House. We remain grateful for their distinguished service to this nation. Honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my singular honor and privilege to invite His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces to address this special sitting of Parliament. I thank you. Your Excellency, please address the joint sitting of the Houses of Parliament.
Asanteni sana, tafadhali tuketi. The Honorable Speakers of the National Assembly and Senate, Honorable Members of the National Assembly and Senate, by the grace of God, it is my pleasure to address this inaugural session of the 13th Parliament following the August 9th general elections. It is important to note that we have made very positive progress. This Parliament has recorded the highest number of re-elected members of Parliament ever. In the National Assembly, a record 193 members have been re-elected, 50 more than were re-elected in 2017. While in the Senate, 17 senators have been re-elected. This confirms the increased confidence of the people of Kenya in their leaders and institutions, affirming the maturity of our democracy. Another milestone is the election of women legislators elected into single-member constituencies. In this year's election, 29 women were elected members of the National Assembly, 6 more than were elected in 2017. This is a manifestation of the growing confidence in the contribution of women leadership in decision-making, in our governance, and in our political institutions. I am certain that this positive trend will continue into the future. It is also instructive that the same confidence in Parliament has been shown in the executive. In 2013, the President was elected with at least 25% of voters in 30 counties, 34 counties in 2017, and 39 counties in the just concluded elections. Again, further demonstrating the deepening pluralism and inclusivity of our democracy. I therefore take this special opportunity to congratulate all of you on your election in the last general election and the subsequent nominations of our nominated members of Parliament. The confidence demonstrated by Kenyans in us and our institutions should inspire us to raise the bar in our service to the nation and accountability to the electorate. It is also my singular honor to congratulate our speakers, the Honorable Moses Wetangula and the Honorable Amason Kingi, for overwhelming confidence of members to preside over the respective houses of Parliament. I also congratulate members who have been elected to parliamentary leadership positions and wish each one of you wisdom, strength, and success in steering our legislative affairs. We gather here on the tranquil side of a competitive election where we all came to grips with the turbulent energies of political competition that characterize our uniquely Kenyan brand of democracy. It is true, this election was an intensely contested election. Nevertheless, that it was peaceful and democratic again confirms the coming of age of our democracy. I submit to you that the fact that the election was so close is an indication that what unites us is always much more greater than what divides us. With the support of Kenyans, we have dislodged ethnicity as the central organizing principle of our politics, thereby retiring for good the ethnic mobilization and personality cults, together with their culture and practices of exclusion, discrimination, patronage, tribalism, and nepotism. We took this assignment further with a paradigm shift of issue-based political leadership anchored in credible platforms, feasible programs, and transformative commitments aimed at positively affecting the well-being of all Kenyans from the bottom up. In summary, and this only happens, by the way, in Kenya, the sitting deputy president became the candidate of the opposition, and the leader of the opposition became the candidate of government. And as things would be, the opposition candidate won the election and became president. And the president became the leader of the opposition party. That's the beauty of our democracy. And it only happens in Kenya. In the process, we also affirmed the sovereignty of the people of Kenya as the ultimate decision makers as envisaged in the Constitution. I promise to lead an administration dedicated to the just and fair government of all Kenyans in order to deliver a Kenya for everybody. I commit to be the loyal, hard-working, devoted president of every Kenyan, and my administration will serve all without regard to any distinction, real or imagined. Certainly, service delivery under my administration shall be impartial, regardless of political affiliation or voter preference. Kenya is our home, and we remain united as one strong family. For these reasons, I want to persuade you that the legislative agenda I stand here to prosecute deserves the bipartisan support of this House. My administration is pursuing a transformational program that offers a uniquely all-Kenyan moment, which calls for unity of purpose in the legislature. We are committed to serving all Kenyans in all wards of each constituency and all counties in every region throughout the Republic of Kenya. After all, we all serve the same boss, the people, and their sovereign interests are our operating principle and purpose. I will run an administration that is open, that is transparent, and my administration will rely on oversight from this House to make sure the public gets value for every cent invested in every policy, project, and program. Consequently, I ask Parliament to consider a mechanism in the standing orders to facilitate cabinet secretaries to articulate government agenda, explain policy, and answer questions on the floor of the House to enhance executive accountability to the people of Kenya through their elected representatives. On this matter of oversight and holding government accountable, my administration commits to restore the place of Parliament in our democracy by respecting the autonomy and oversight authority of Parliament on the executive. Equally, I am a firm believer in democracy and the rule of law. That is why my first executive action when I took office was to undo a legacy of acts and omissions that had incrementally undermined the independence of the judiciary. For avoidance of doubt, the judiciary is an arm of government just like Parliament, and my administration will be intentional in respecting the constitutionally mandated systems of checks and balances. It is in this spirit that I will be seeking additional resources to support the bottom-up scaling of justice and empower the judiciary to acquire capacity and develop the infrastructure needed to more efficiently adjudicate and expeditiously conclude corruption cases, commercial disputes, and all other matters that today are a huge backlog on the judiciary. Honorable members, to implement the pledges and commitments set out in our plan, my administration is committed to investing in the requisite enablers and infrastructure to provide a sound foundation for its execution. These are interventions intended to create a conducive environment for effective, efficient, and sustainable realization of our national transformation. We are on a mission to dramatically scale up productivity in agriculture and make sure that every Kenyan farmer, fisherman, and pastoralist contributes to sustainable economic growth by contributing to adequate and affordable food, generating greater incomes, and producing the raw materials required by the agro and manufacturing value chains. This will boost Kenya's export performance and create millions of jobs. Consequently, we have been deliberate in our efforts to restore sanity and introduce greater responsibility in the management of public resources. One significant intervention is the resolve to abandon consumption subsidies in favor of supporting and investing in production. This is why we have made available fertilizer to our farmers at cheaper rates of 3,500 per 50 kilogram bag, down from 6,500. We are exploring further mechanisms to bring these prices down. We have an obligation to redeem our pledge to our small traders, the hawkers, the mamambogas, the bodabodas, that every person who sells any good or service gets to work and earns a decent livelihood enough to place them on the path to wealth through saving and investment. The hustler economy has to flourish and form the foundation of broader economic transformation while catalyzing the widening of the national revenue base. Our agenda here is to take necessary measures to create an enabling environment for business people to thrive and decriminalize enterprise. Affordable credit makes a huge difference in the rate of business growth. Access to affordable credit is like a magic formula. The current Credit Reference Bureau approach of blacklisting debtors is zero-sum, punitive, and has arbitrarily locked millions of business out of the credit system. It is time to shift the formula to a credit scoring system which allows lenders to apply customer segmentation and at the same time end the stigma of blacklisting. We have held productive conversations with operators of the Fuliza and M-Shwari platforms on the modalities of reducing their lending rates. I am happy to report today that yesterday our engagement finally culminated in undertaking by the platform operators to reduce the cost of credit by 50%, and this is a significant step towards unlocking billions of shillings needed to spur economic activity by once again expanding financial inclusion. My administration will allocate resources every year to the Hustler Fund, from which micro, small, and medium enterprises can access affordable credit to start and expand their businesses. I promised yesterday that we will leverage on technology in the management and disbursement of these funds. And shortly, we will be bringing to this House the legislation and the regulatory framework to operationalize this fund. There is tremendous opportunity for this House to fully take up its role in resolving the systemic issues of limit to access affordable homes and affordable financing. This administration will unlock housing for the nation by doing a couple of interventions. Number one, we will work on the provision of land for affordable housing, both public and private. And number two, we will provide access to affordable and stable financing for those engaged in social, affordable housing across the country. These two measures will allow us to undertake mass housing production and thereby shape our approach to urban development and spatial planning, which, unlike before, will deliver sustainable and inclusive human settlement. I also wish to express our intention to bring to this House legislative proposals to provide a framework for a housing offtake plan, which will create incentives for developers to invest more money into our housing strategy and on the strength of guaranteed offtake of completed units. To actualize the enabling infrastructure, we intend to take the following steps. A public-private partnership funding framework is envisaged for large capital projects. In order to achieve our target of raising access to water from the current 60% to 80%, Kenya shillings 500 billion is required. Government can provide this gradually, but the private sector can mobilize it all at once. We will thus adopt a public-private partnership framework by entering into water purchase agreements with investors. I have already instructed the PPP unit at Treasury to work on the regulations that will facilitate the mechanism like we have in our energy sector for investors to work with us on a formula under a water purchase agreement instrument. This way, we will achieve water for all in less than a decade. Concerning electricity, we shall facilitate the development of innovative and effective modalities to provide better off-grid systems, including enabling consumers to form small cooperatives for that purpose. And in health, we are bound by duty to take measures to make universal health coverage a reality and liberate Kenyans and their families from the threat of harrowing poverty that stalks them every time a family member falls seriously ill. In our plan, and through your support, we will restructure our primary health system so that we put more resources into promotive, preventive, and early diagnosis. A key driver of this realization is the National Health Insurance Fund, whose restructuring is not only necessary for efficiency, but also enables it become a fit-for-purpose social insurance scheme that caters for all, including those suffering from chronic diseases. Digital technology has become a critical player in economic growth. We will capitalize on existing technology and innovation in the public and private sector to distribute the Hustler Fund as promised in our plan. I call upon financial institutions and our young people in innovation to participate in the digital economy by redesigning their products to serve the goal of empowering millions armed with grand ideas and are only waiting for the funds to finance their dreams to reality. Honorable speakers, honorable members, I have news, and it is not very good news. Our financial situation is not very good. For Kenya to grow to an upper income country, we need to invest at least 25% of our GDP. Our current national savings is below 10% of our GDP, which translates to an investment savings deficit of 15% of our GDP. Over the last decade, we have sought to close this gap with public borrowing. This year alone, we budgeted to borrow 900 billion to finance both development and recurrent expenditure. You're all aware that our total collection is 2.1 trillion, which is only enough to pay debt and to pay salaries. Everything else, we have to borrow. The government, members, should never borrow to finance recurrent expenditure. It is not right, it is not prudent, it is not sustainable, it is simply wrong. We must bring ourselves and our country to sanity. Over the next 3 years, we must reverse this and go back to the situation where government contributes to the national saving efforts by keeping recurrent expenditure below revenue. To this end, I have instructed Treasury to work with ministries to find at least 300 billion shillings in this year's budget so that we can remove it, because the market cannot sustain the kind of borrowing we are doing as government. Next year, we will bring it further down so that by the third year, we have a recurrent budget surplus. This we must do, members, because it is the right thing for us to do. On the revenue side, I am committed and determined to ensure that our tax system is responsive to the needs of the economy. It must be equitable, efficient, and customer-friendly. The economic principle of equitable taxation requires that the tax burden reflects ability to pay. This is best achieved by a hierarchy that taxes wealth, then consumption, then incomes, and lastly trade, in that order of preference, so that those who are wealthy and have the capacity to pay should pay more, and those at the bottom of the pyramid should pay what is proportional. This is best achieved by our tax regime that is different from our current tax system, which falls way far short of this. We are overtaxing trade and undertaxing wealth. We will be proposing tax measures that begin to move us in the right direction. We will also work with the Kenya Revenue Authority on a culture change to make it a people-friendly, customer-centric organization. I am of the view that we should rename it the Kenya Revenue Service in line with the proposed transformation. The very large government borrowing requirements has also undermined the business sector contribution to national savings and investment efforts. These measures outlined above will also address the problem of government crowding out the private sector from the credit market. It will encourage banks to go back to lending to businesses and also bring down interest rates so that the private sector can also contribute to reducing the savings investment deficit. In many countries, social security, and particularly pension systems, contributes significantly to the national savings. Our current social security infrastructure, both public, that is the NSSF, and private, only cater for people in formal employment, thereby excluding the vast majority of working Kenyans. There is no retired Kenyan today who is living on their NSSF retirement benefits. The meager current contribution of Kenya shillings 200 a month adds up to 72,000 over 30 years. There is no rate of return on earth that can grow this into an adequate pension. I mean, we just have to be honest with ourselves. You cannot pretend that you are saving by saving 200 shillings. And it happens across board. Not surprising, many Kenyans scramble to provide for themselves by investing in the 50 by 100 plots of land thereby exacerbating the problem of land fragmentation, price inflation, as well as land fraud. We intend to overhaul our social security infrastructure to make it inclusive. To encourage those excluded to save, I will be proposing a national savings drive to encourage those in the informal sector to set up their retirement savings plan. For every 2 shillings saved in the scheme, up to a maximum of 6,000 a year, the government will contribute a shilling for every 2 shillings saved by the private sector. Meaning that every Kenyan who will save 6,000 a year, the government of Kenya will give them 3,000 shillings. As part of the response to the ongoing drought, we have embarked on distribution of relief supplies to 3.5 million Kenyans who are affected by drought in 23 arid and semi-arid counties. The ultimate solution to the drought cycle in our country is mitigation of climate change and its adverse effects. We must act urgently to keep global heating levels below 1.5 degrees centigrade, help those in need, promote the use of renewable energy, and thus end addiction to fossil fuels. Honorable members, I know the contribution to the National Government Constituency Development Fund has made in making life better for our citizens. Having served in Parliament for 15 years, before and after the establishment of the National Government CDF, I know the difference it makes is monumental. I believe there is a way CDF can be aligned to the tenets of the Constitution. In this regard, I also extend to heart that both houses should also be adequately resourced for oversight duties. With regard to the Senate and its constitutional mandate, I believe the two houses should work together to set up the Senate Oversight Fund. This will be used to provide oversight of the millions of resources that are sent to counties. Honorable members, the people of Kenya rightly expect much of us. We have our work cut out. This is our chance to achieve real change by working together to make Kenya a land of equal opportunity for all, where every Kenyan is proud to call home. Let us all play our part in the service of our employers, the people of Kenya. I will be making other statements going into the future. I will make my statement today short. May the good Lord bless you, and God bless the great people of Kenya. Thank you.
Honorable members, kindly let us take our seats. Honorable members, please be upstanding. Your Excellency, the President, the Right Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, honorable members, we have come to the conclusion of the business of the day, and it is now time to adjourn. The Senate stands adjourned until Tuesday, 4th of October 2022 at 2:30 p.m. in the Senate Chamber, Parliament Buildings.
Honorable members, the National Assembly will equally stand adjourned until Tuesday, 4th October 2022 at 2:30 p.m. And before we adjourn, my apologies to the members of the judiciary, those who carried my speech, left out the acknowledgement of our members of the judiciary present in the House. Apart from the Chief Justice, we also have the Deputy Chief Justice, Honorable Philemon Mwilu. We have Justice Daniel Musinga, President of the Supreme Court, of the Court of Appeal. We have Lady Justice Hannah Okwengu, Justice of Appeal. We have Honorable Justice Eric Ogola, Principal Judge of the High Court. We have Honorable Lady Justice Maureen Onyango, Principal Judge of the Employment and Labor Courts of Kenya. And we have the Honorable Ann Amadi, Chief Registrar of the Judiciary. Your Excellency, honorable members, may I take this opportunity to invite all honorable members and our guests to our reception at the Parliament courtyard. May I also request all honorable members and our guests that you remain standing in silence in your places until the procession of His Excellency the President, the speakers, the Supreme Court judges, and the spiritual leaders leave the House. If the Honorable Chebukati is present in the House, we also all the honorable members, on your behalf, I have the distinct honor to acknowledge his presence. Thank you.
Just to interact, but it's a very crucial speech given the picture that he has laid bare, about the economy to members of parliament. And there was this notable remark that he did make, that the economic situation is not good, and he was very frank telling members of parliament. And I'm joined by one of the members of parliament here from Kinangop. Mheshimiwa, welcome to the set. This is TV47. This has been a very unique speech, very short, to the point, and then he gave you the truth. He told you the hard truth. The economy is not doing good.
Well, I want to start by appreciating the speech by His Excellency the President. Indeed, it was one of what would say record short speeches that have been made in this House. And he was able to really capture the state of our economy. One thing that I'm pleased about is that he was able to appreciate that we are coming from a very difficult time. Campaign time, and of course the public debt is at an all-time high, and he's been able to articulate the way he's going to really lay foundation for his leadership going forward. And he's been able to say that indeed he needs like 300 billion for him to move forward. From whichever source is going to get the money, that's a question that we need to ask, because he said that he's going to task the treasury to really look for the money so that then we get the ball rolling. But most importantly, I am pleased with the President that he's been able to touch on key issues as to how he's going to cause the economy to stimulate the economy, so that then the bottom person, as he calls them, or hustlers, will be in a position now to be able to take care of their lives. But I'm happy with the President's speech, and I look forward to a lot of work coming from the National Assembly, because for him to get any debt, then it has to come through the parliament. You know, now we have a committee by the name of public debt and privatization. It's talked of PPPs, it's talked of public debt. I mean, all these things have to come through the assembly, and he seems to be a good friend of parliament. So I'm just wishing him well in his leadership.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa, for your views. Let's sample more views. I'm now joined by Gilgil, Member of Parliament, Mother Wangari. Mheshimiwa, welcome to the set. You're live on TV47.
Thank you.
This has been a very interesting speech, very short, giving Kenyans the hard truth about the status of the economy and other issues. What did you pick? What was your takeaway from the speech?
First of all, I think this is the shortest speech we've ever had. In fact, I think most of us were gearing to be here up to 6 o'clock. So it was quite a surprise, short and sweet. And I think what I've picked, first of all, of course, is unity. He actually acknowledged that this election was very hotly contested, but at the end of the day, we are one Kenya, one family, and gave the commitment to serve across, the political divide. He also invited the opposition, or I would say the minority side, to actually participate in the bipartisan lawmaking and the work of parliament. So I also think that is very key. But the other one, of course, on the downside is the economy. The status of the economy is quite something that we have to work on, that we have to deal with the borrowing, reduce the borrowing, and we can also not borrow to pay salaries. So I think some of those things that have come out very clearly. But I think going forward, he has also mentioned about the NGCDF, which is a very hot issue. I will tell you, like now in my constituency, there have been people lining up in my home, in my office, looking for bursaries, and we are telling them we are sorry. So we hope that we can be able to unlock that limbo. But finally, because I've sat in the Senate and I've sat in the National Assembly, the sibling library between the two houses is very clear that every house must be accorded its respect, and the two houses to work in harmony to ensure that the legislative agenda is achieved.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for your comment. I'm now joined by Member of Parliament for Buuri. Mheshimiwa, welcome to the set. The economy. This was a hard truth, and of course how things are and how he plans to revive the economy. How did you see that short speech?
I think the president hit the nail on the head first time, He doesn't have to give the specifics, but recognition of the problem that is facing our economy right now was the hardest part for the president. But since he has acknowledged, he has given us a blueprint of the things that he needs to tackle, starting from savings and investment, plus productivity on the agricultural sector. We should not only bring food on the table, but also facilitate the economy to grow in terms of export. The president has also noticed and brought to our view that we are using a lot of money on the current expenditures, which is not good for our economy. We're spending a lot of money on the current expenditures, and the president has said we must reverse this trend within the next 3 years. He has categorically said that starting this year, there should be a budget adjustment of 300 million. And then going down second year, by that year, we shall have more money for investment and less money being put on the current expenditure. The other mitigating issue that he has brought to our attention is the issue of drought. I mean, we cannot always be a country that is living on borrowing for food, asking for donations for food. We need, is the high time the president comes in force, and he has stated so that we need to increase productivity of our agricultural products so that now we become sustainable in food, and also the issue of water, because I think that's the key factor in increasing productivity on food.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. Makali, before we join our Mheshimiwa from Nyandarua County, Mheshimiwa, thank you so much for joining us. What did you make of the speech?
4 quick things. The first thing, I appreciate the fact that it was quite short. That is excellent. The issue of drought, very important. The statement that the government will not borrow to fund recurrent costs, excellent. The issue of restructuring KRA so that we are able to have a friendlier KRA to collect more money so that we finance our projects from our own resources. And last but not least, acknowledgement that the CDF is helping Kenyans from the highest office in this land is excellent. Thank you very much.
And that's why you cheered. We go to Nyandarua County now. Mheshimiwa, welcome to the set. You are live on TV 47. How did you take this speech?
Thank you very much. This is Wanjiko Mohia, member from Kipipiri. And we say this speech was one of its kind, short, clear and precise. And it has tackled almost everything in a nutshell. The issue of the manifesto have been reaffirmed to the common mwananchi in terms of cheap finance, particularly if the Kenyans can be able to purchase the houses, because the country is looking at housing and construction. The issue of Fuliza Manenos, as it was well discussed yesterday, because if you don't have cheap finance, businesses are affected, the banks are neither making profit. The saving culture that you want to introduce to this country, the funding of recurrent expenditure, most important, that the current situation economically is that we are almost borrowing to sustain the recurrent expenditure. So the way he has indicated how we should slash the expenses so that we can have surplus, so that we retain and sustain our recurrent expenditure is key. The issue of drought, that drought is here with us, we should tackle it, but in future we should see how to do it. And may I take this opportunity to also welcome the government of Kenya to Nyandarua County. We see trucks from State House taking food relief to Northeastern. They can come and buy our potatoes because we have them, and then they take there where our farmers can also benefit. So in a nutshell, the speech was good, is reaffirming to the citizen about the manifesto which he had put in place. Don't forget, he has mentioned that CDF is something important, and we shouldn't really fight on the constitutional matters, because constitution is made for us. We can align it and move on if it is good for the people.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for your comments. I also see the woman representative for Kiambu County, Gathoni Wamushomba.
Now the member of Githunguri.
Yes, sorry, my apologies for that.
Women rep sasa mimi niko wa Githunguri.
Yes, karibu sana Mheshimiwa.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Sasa leo
this was a speech which was majorly focused on the economy. It was all about the economy and the way forward.
Yes.
What was your takeaway?
I think this is the shortest speech, presidential speech I've listened to since I became a member of parliament, because the previous parliament tulikuwa na speech ya 2 hours. Leo ilikuwa less than 25 minutes. Na speech ya president ya leo imetufurahisha sana. First of all, because his agenda of the hustler nation has been the basis of his discussion. Ameongea kuhusu economy na the hustler nation. Economy na mwananchi wa kawaida. Amesema ya kwamba angetaka kwanza kuhakikisha ya kwamba watu wa Kenya wamepata ile culture ya kusave pesa. Amesema serikali yetu imefika pahali imefirisika kwa sababu ya kukosa culture ya kusave. Kwa hivyo amesema wale watu wote ambao wangeweza kusave kwa NSSF, kwa kila 3,000 ambazo mtu atasave, serikali itaweka shilingi 2. Uone kuonania, ama hivyo ni kusema for every 3,000, 6,000 shillings will be the total amount, because the government is going to put 2 shillings per every saver. Alafu amesema anataka tax base yake, yani pahali anatoa ushuru, aiongeze kwa kuhakikisha ya kwamba mkulima ambaye ako pale chini amekuwa mfanyibiashara. Anataka kutax more on the trade than more on the income. Amesema anataka kutax more on the trade, lakini sio more on the income. Ndio ahakikisha ya kwamba wale ambao wanafanya biashara ndio wanaweka pesa nyingi katika saving ya Kenya. Na tumefurahi sana kwa sababu agenda ya Hustler Nation na bottom up ndio imeshikilia speech ya president siku ya leo.
Asante sana mheshimiwa kwa maoni yako, and we are now joined by Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi. Thank you so much sir for joining us on the set. A very great day and very symbolic because this sets the pace and the agenda for yes, I'm saying this is a very huge day and a great day, symbolic, not just symbolically, but also given it sets the pace for your development agenda and how you're going to run things. What was your, sorry for that, we do apologize for the push that is going on here. We do apologize, there's a bit of a mix-up here on our interview. The president is just passing by. That's why there is the push and pull here from the presidential guards. But going back to our interview, we are joined by the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and being with us here despite the hiccup. Right. What was your takeaway from the speech? Is this how you're going to run things moving forward?
I think, first of all, I think Kenyans must be relieved that the speech was not the prolonged 2-hour speech. I think that was a very good gesture, because there are various fora where additional issues can be spoken to. But this speech was candid, was forthright. It comes out clearly that we are not sitting pretty as a nation. So we have a job to do, we have a challenge. And he outlined some of the key areas around the economy, around improving savings in this country, the need to use our resources properly, the need to make sure that our borrowing is tamed. So all that came out in his speech. And I thought it is something that we should all now pick up on the basis that there is no more time to waste. We need to act fast to turn the tide in our favor. Yes.
And he was very candid, not sparing word, not missing words, telling Kenyans this is how the situation is.
Yes.
The economy is not, the situation is not good.
Yes.
Does it mean that you are undoing a mess that has been left by the previous administration?
The truth of the matter is that we are in a difficult situation, right? It's not, how we got there is a different matter, but the fact is we are there, all right? So what we must do is to now work our way out of this crisis, all right? Mitigate on the debt, create jobs, feed our people, increase our savings, make sure that credit is accessible to many more Kenyans at affordable rates, housing. So these are very critical areas, and to me, I think he spoke well.
Finally, before I let you go, sir, there is this issue of politicians. They are now in cabinet. Majority of you are politicians. You're in the cabinet, unlike in the previous administration. How is this going to work? Politicians in the cabinet.
My friend, why did we go to vote? Why do governments change? They change because people elect their leaders. That is politics. We should not criminalize politicians working in the executive. It's a question of blending. You can be a politician, work with technocrats in different areas, you have a blend and you move on. After all, perhaps your son or your daughter is going to go to university and do political science. So, do you want to criminalize your daughter or your son who does political science? Why do universities teach government and political science? It's because it's all about governance. So we must break away from this notion that a certain cadre of professionals should not be in certain places. All right? Let us respect the fact that you go to school, you go to college, so that you can grow, and collectively our diverse professionals enrich the management of a country. That is how it should be. All right?
So we won't be seeing politics over the weekends. You know how politicians are.
People must communicate. One of the weakest aspects of the previous government was the fact that it seemed to operate and had lost touch in communicating with the people. All right? That is why a good blend of the politicians and technocrats will be useful, so that you can talk to the Kenyans, you can talk to the citizens about your policies and your programs. All right? Okay. So it is necessary. So I see nothing wrong in him setting up a government that is mixed with a blend of both. Whether you went to the States or whether you went to the UK, didn't you find that mixture? Right? So let us not try and criminalize politicians in the executive in this country. It happens globally. Yes.
When can we expect the appointment of principal secretaries and CSs?
I think Parliament will convene next week. They'll set up their committees. After they set up their committees, then the process of vetting, if I may use it, the nominees will start. So we have a few weeks ahead of us of quite some work. But let Parliament convene next Tuesday and set up its committees.
Thank you so much, sir. That's
Thanks a lot.
Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi speaking to us here at Parliament Buildings. I'm now joined by Alice Ng'ang'a. Mheshimiwa, I see you've made a comeback. Yes. Congrats.
Thank you very much.
How did you see this speech, or how did you take it in?
It is the best ever, the shortest ever, direct to the point. And I want to say the killer one was that if somebody will be saving, let's say in a year, 6,000, the government will be adding 3,000 on top. So if you save 10,000, the government will be adding another like 3,000 or 5,000 on top of your savings. Because Kenyans, we don't save. And he has given us an instruction on how people save every day 200. By the time you are retiring, the amount of money you have saved is 72,000, which can't help you at your old age. And something else that was also very good is that we are going back to the basic production, where the fertilizer, the seedlings are going to be given to farmers. Because if we don't do this, we are living beyond our means. The country does not have money. So we need to look for a way that we'll be able to be paying salaries. Because you see, we are borrowing to pay salaries. We have said we cannot do that. That will be borrowing to give out salaries to people. And that's what we have said. We have to come up with KRA. We are going to rename it again, something services, and it is going to be more friendly, and people can access it more easily, so that our people will know that paying taxes is not a It's not a crime. They should not be harassed. You should be coming out to go and pay your taxes voluntarily without being coerced, because of the body need to be a little bit friendly, so that we'll be able, the amount of money the revenue we are going to be collecting from taxes will be able to sustain us in terms of recurrency, expenditure, as well as we start now boosting our development from our collection from KRA, from our revenue. Then another one that was also good is that the CDF is going to be returned back to us. We need to amend here and there. And it is not us who are saying that the CDF should come back. It is Mwananchi, because we have seen everywhere CDF has touched the public, there is a mark it has left behind. So the president has said we are going to work around it and see how it is going to come back, so that we can continue helping our people.
And we saw him trying to reach out even to the other side.
Correct.
Because he needs numbers here, as far as pushing government agenda is concerned. How do you see this working out, given the contention that we have now that is yet to be sorted out by the Speaker on the issue of the majority versus the minority?
Let me tell you, forget about who is the majority or who is the minority. That is not the bone of contention right now. Where we are right now, it is to bring our economy back. Right now, our economy is kneeling. We have to make it stand one more time. So it is not about who is the majority, who is the minority. It is how we are going to rally together as Kenyans and see how we are going to help our economy so that we can move forward. This country needs to move forward. And let me tell you, ukiwa na njaa, it is not one person. It is collectively, everybody is hungry, everybody is suffering. So we are going collectively to pull from every corner and every side. And we are going to lobby as much as we can to make sure that everybody stand to be counted to bring our economy back.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for speaking to us. Yes, and we are now joined by Member of Parliament from Kiminini. Mheshimiwa, you are live on TV 47. Thank you so much for joining us. How did you see that speech? And it was very short.
I think it was spot on, spot to the point, quickly addressed the bigger picture, which I think I'm told from the old colleagues from the history of Parliament, that was the shortest speech, but spot on, because most of the issues were addressed, from the economy to the issue of devolution, and also the role of the National Assembly in terms of the CDF, that was addressed, issues health, issues the economy in terms of, the persons down there, working out on some, the Hustler Fund. So that was brilliant, really brilliant speech, spot on. And so we look forward now for the implementation. And also revamping the Kenya Revenue Authority back to the Kenya Revenue Service. That was very good. We need them to give a service, not to be an authority, not to be authoritative, but be friendly, provide the service, collect as much tax as they can, so that we can also revamp the economy. But by and large, I think also we need to fasten our belts, because from the speech, it looks like there's going to be a lot of deductions from different ministries. Yes.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for your comment. I'm now joined by a Member of Parliament, Member of the National Assembly from Marakwet West, if I'm not wrong, Mheshimiwa.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, this was more of, it was a very candid speech. It was to the point, and it was a speech that spoke of how things are, the true, if I may use that word, the true status of how the economy is. What was your takeaway?
Now, I think for the first time in this country, we have a president who is a man of the people. This is a president of the people, by the people, and for the people. Spoken issues that touch the core of Kenyans. One of the issues that I'm excited about is today he has affirmed the independence of the legislature and the independence of the judiciary. And that is one of the things that I'm excited about, because what we lacked in this country, especially in the last regime, is that the legislature was twisted by the executive. The judiciary somehow was twisted, but was firm to some extent. So I think that has excited me. Number two, the other issue is that we have had CSs who are out of touch with the legislature. But he has proposed an amendment. He has said that he will implore upon members of the National Assembly to amend the standing orders so that the CSs can be able to come to the floor of the House, they ask questions, and they can be accountable to the citizens of this country at the floor of the House. So I think those are the two issues that I think for me, it's a take home today. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for your comments. And now we are joined here by member of the National Assembly, popularly known as Kawaya, during the campaigns. Mheshimiwa, what was your take from the speech? It was very short, a very short speech. Kindly, if you may move a step back.
Please,
Yes, a step back.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
I'd say it was short and sweet because it spoke a lot, but within a short time. We've, as a parliament, we've always been treated to very long speeches, and people sleep, and when you're done, you can't remember anything. But there's a lot we can remember within a short time. I think the president spoke to the nation, and most importantly, he told us the state of the economy as it is, that we shouldn't live a lie, that we are collecting less than we can barely pay our salaries and pay our debts, and something must be done about it. And he also gave a roadmap on how we have to get within 3 years to a point where we can be able to pay our debts, pay our salaries, and also be able to collect more to do our development. And that is where we want to go. He also, of course, laid out strategies and where now Parliament comes in, because all these things require legislative support. And therefore, there are areas where it needs legislative interventions by Parliament. One of those areas that he spoke about that intends to bring legislations here is around the area around savings, the area around universal health care. You've heard him talk about there is no way a member of Parliament should be paying for NHIF the same amount that a Mama Mboga is paying. We should all pay based on our income. He also spoke about our savings. There is no way you can save 200 shillings and expect to live a good life after you retire. So all these things require, because he cannot implement them without the support of Parliament, requires bills to come here sponsored by the executive for us to be able to pass them so that this agenda can be realized. I want to applaud him for talking about and stamping authority on CDF, that he thinks that CDF must leave because he has been a member of Parliament before CDF and with CDF, and he sees the difference. The independence of institutions, I think, is very clear, that he will live to respect independent institutions and different arms of government, the judiciary with its independence, with the Parliament, and also the executive as it is. All these three are supposed to be equals in forming the government. I think I will also want to applaud him for the issue of the senators. The senators have always said that we should not fear the other house. We should give them opportunities. And for the first time, I've heard a president talking about empowering the Senate to do its work. Yes.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. We are now joined by Dido Raso. Mheshimiwa, thank you so much for joining us. This was a very short speech, sort of putting the roadmap on where we should be. What was your takeaway?
Thank you so much. First of all, I think I must thank my people of Saku for electing me back to the National Assembly for the third time. It is an element of confidence and also trust that I will effectively represent them in the August House. Listening to the President's speech, indeed it was short, but it carried a message that is likely to carry us for the next 5 years. Firstly, it is about the big four that had been put aside by the last administration, particularly in the area of universal health, also in the area of enabling environment. Because currently the problems we are facing is in the economy. If you want to fix security, development, infrastructure, you must fix the economy. And I think the President has put around that we are going to face that. The other issue is about the bottom-up economy. CDF is about the bottom-up economy. It is about the rural school in Saku, in a place called Diribgombo, that is maybe about 30 kilometers from Marsabit town, where the nearest facility is that school, because there must be a small dispensary, there must be a water tank to assist the local community around there. And so if anybody wants to wish away the CDF, I think they are challenging the existence of constituencies and also the rural economy. So for that reason, I think the president has made the right note that the CDF is not going to go away. Finally, it is about the combination of the two houses. There must be synergy. Kenya is a unitary state. It's not about the Senate and the National Assembly. When we work together, we are likely to achieve what you call value for money for the Kenyan people. And finally, for me, it is his address on the issue of drought. Currently, it is the elephant in the room, where we are not fearing just losing livestock. We are actually fearing losing the people. And the president's intent of moving with the speed to address those issues are critical. And I think for those of us who have invested in William Ruto, we are seeing there are positive notes in what he has given the nation today from the floor of the National Assembly. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. Member for Saku there speaking to us. Remember, we are still outside here at Parliament buildings, where we are continuing to sample views of members of the National Assembly. And I can also see Julius Mawathe, who is in the Azimio camp, is joining us now live. Mheshimiwa, this has been a very short speech.
Yes.
And given you on the other side, what was your take on this speech?
Actually, what I picked for me, sometimes I believe in ability for being able to find solutions. What we picked, and the people of Embakasi South, or people, my electorate, want to hear, is that they will continue to get bursaries. So I want to tell my people in Embakasi South constituency and all the Nairobi residents that they'll continue to get their bursaries. The issue of CDF, we don't want CDF. CDF we have never used CDF. CDF is old. CDF died in 2015. We have been using national government CDF. Actually, the difference between the CDF and the NG-CDF is like day and night. One was being given up until 2014 and 2016. But now we've been using the NG-CDF, or rather than the national government CDF is what we've been using. So far, we will continue. The reason why there was found a constitution on the CDF is because we were getting 2.5 of the whole kitty before 2015. But since the amendment of 2015, it is we only get 2.5 of the national government kitty. So our portion, we don't interfere with what has been devolved. We only deal with what. So my people in Embakasi South will continue getting bursaries, and I know we will be okay.
Thank you so much. Asante. And we are also now joined by former Speaker of the National Assembly and now Attorney General Designate Justin Bedan Muturi. Sir, this is a very unique position you find yourself in. You're in Parliament, you left Parliament, now you're crossing to the other side. How is this transition? How are you taking it?
I'm taking it in my strengths, because it's a unique opportunity to serve the country from a different position. But of course, knowing the work of the AG, Principal Legal Advisor to government, and representing the government in various bodies, especially things to do with law, which is my area of specialization. I'm very happy indeed. I want to thank His Excellency the President for nominating me to that position. Look forward to serving him and serving the country to the best of my ability.
This was a very short speech, very interesting. We haven't heard such a speech in the past. And then it was more about the economy, the economy, the economy. What was your takeaway?
You know, whether we like it or not, if we shut our eyes to the reality of the day, which is the state of our economy, we will be deceiving Kenyans. And I'm happy that the president concentrated more on the state of the economy than on any other thing. And I think it's a good thing. It's just putting everybody on notice that, please, this is where we are. All our focus, energies, and attention should be on addressing issues of the economy. The cost of living is going through the window, through the roof, and really anything short of addressing what we can do to bring about a turnaround would be deceptive. And therefore, I commend the president for having dedicated a portion of his short speech to addressing the reality of the day. Yeah.
And finally, sir, you are taking over a very crucial office. What can you expect as far as the agenda of your office is concerned? What kind of agenda can Kenyans expect?
You know, the Office of the Attorney General, his work is already set out in the Constitution, and other enabling legislation like the Office of the Attorney General's Act number 49 of 2012 gives in details the various activities that happen around there. I'm quite alive to those activities, the functions, and I hope to apply myself to my level best, but while at all times appreciating that there are people in the state law office and one needs to consult. Many of them have built a wealth of experience. It will be important to listen to them, tap into their various expertise in various areas so as to serve the country in a better way. Yeah.
I'll let you go. How about the issue of NCGDF and also the oversight fund which the president has proposed for it to be legislated in this house?
I think if you read through the judgment of the Supreme Court, even though it was dealing with the CDF Act of 2013, if you look through the CDF Act of 2015, more or less the functions are similar. But more importantly, the judiciary concentrated on the issue of service delivery. And they argue that service delivery is an executive function. And therefore, a legislator or legislatures cannot be involved in delivering services. Then there was the issue of where the Act talks about not less than 2.5% of national revenue raised going to the CDF kitty. That, of course, the judges, in my view, are right because national shareable revenue is national revenue, and it's only in the Constitution. It's only shared between two levels: the national government and the county government. And therefore, to the extent that the CDF Act talks of not less than 2.5% of national revenue, then to that extent, it is in violation, it's in conflict with the provisions of the Constitution. But as you've heard the President saying that we will be consulting, indeed we are already consulting. Because CDF, to a very large extent, has served this country very well in many constituencies. So it's a question of aligning that part so that it is not the 2.5% of national revenue. It is 2.5, maybe 2.5 or whatever percentage of revenue that belongs to the national government. Yes. So it's very easy.
How about the Senate Oversight Fund?
The Senate Oversight Fund can be, it's something, we've always had that proposal. It can be done administratively within Parliamentary Service Commission. Yeah, it's not a problem because it's just setting up a fund to enable senators oversight the counties. And it's important. As the President has just said, there's a huge resources that are devolved to the counties. And if you look at the capacities in the counties, in many areas, they may not exist to to an extent of being ably and fairly to oversight the expenditure of those resources. And therefore, it's only fair that the Senate be given a kitty, which is administered from within Parliament, not within. It could be part of the budget of Parliamentary Service Commission, which then will be hived off and be referred to as the Senate Oversight Fund. It's a kitty. In fact, it's not a fund. It's just a kitty within the budget of Parliamentary Service Commission. Yeah.
During the campaigns, you spoke about State Capture Commission. How will this be actualized?
I think it will not be good for me to speak about it now, since consultations are happening, and I'm here to be approved by the National Assembly. So if I speak about it now, I may be accused of, as an experienced legislator, anticipating something that could be debate here, because the formation may require the engagement of the National Assembly particularly. Yes.
Thank you so much, Attorney General Designate, for speaking to K24. We still have more members of the National Assembly here who are still giving their views. Mr. Speaker, it's okay. Let me start with Mheshimiwa Nyikal.
Yes.
This was a very unique speech. You are a veteran member and you've served in government also. How did you see the speech?
Too short and reluctant. So you get the impression the president is reluctant to speak and the speech is short. And therefore, it mentions some very important issues without going to details, and misses out also on very important issues. He mentions the issue of the debt and generally gives a direction we should reduce our debt, but we don't get the details that will actually go into the planning of it, even the general direction. But that's a very important, in principle, yes, we should reduce our debt, we should reduce our spending. Now you are saying that you are going to call ministries to reduce the current budget by 300 billion. Now that needed a direction on what areas you are going to touch. And then you find that he's talking about health sector, the usual thing that will invest in primary health care, that will make sure we implement UHC. That has been said by all government. What we would expect is how, particularly for somebody who was in government. So that does not come out very well. Bringing the ministers into the house, again, you would want to know what are the modalities. To begin with, a lot of ministers have been appointed who are in the house. So you are kind of taking them out, but now they will have to come to the house. A constitutional matter, a matter of standing orders. So how do you actually get it done? So I think in summary, it was too brief. So it has left out, like I've told you, unemployment amongst the youth. You didn't hear much. Graft, corruption, a big thing. You didn't hear much. So I think, this speech was shorter than the prayer that we went through. So to that extent, we who are not in the executive will have to come out and really get more into details. What did he mean? We will want policies. He says you are going to get the Hustler Fund. Now there are other funds that are existing. There's a Wezo Fund, there is Women Enterprise Fund, there's Youth Fund. You would have heard of it. When we do this, are we going to combine this into this, or this will exist? Then you talk of social security. We are going to increase 3,000 on top of 6,000. But you don't then say, but what is going to talk the social protection, the cash transfers that has been going on? Because when you bring it, must take into consideration what is existing. So my summary is too brief, left out important points, but the important points were mentioned, but no clear direction given.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for your comments. We are now joined by the Minister or Cabinet Secretary designate for Trade, Investment and Industry, Moses Kuria, who was the former member of the National Assembly from Gatundu South constituency. Mheshimiwa, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
How did you take the news that you are now in government?
Well, I'm happy with the opportunity. I was happy. I thank God and thank the President for this honor. An honor to serve the country is always a good thing. Yeah.
There was the maiden speech. It was all about the economy. What was your takeaway?
That is the only thing that we have. Our main agenda is about the economy. And the work is cut out for us. We have got a myriad of issues on the fiscal space. We have got a myriad of issues on need to increase the tax revenue. And, the expectation of the people, of the hustlers, are very high. But equally, we are equal to the task. Yeah.
Coming back to you, Mheshimiwa, what kind of cabinet secretary should we expect from Moses Kuria?
Well, I'm all about work. I take our work seriously. I'm a very hard-working person. I understand the subject matter. I've been involved in matters of trade, matters of investment, matters of manufacturing for a long time, way before even I was a member of parliament. So it's just a chance now to implement what I've been talking about in practice. Yeah.
And how do you feel about this cabinet, you being part of it? It's full of politicians. We know they delivered. You are allies of the president. How do you feel about it having majority of them being politicians?
Well, it is not easy to be elected. You don't get elected by fluke or by chance. For you to be a member of parliament, to be a politician, it takes a lot. So it is actually, it speaks a lot to have people like former governors, former members of parliament. They bring the wealth of not only subject matter, because we are also professionals in our own right. I'm a banker. We have got seasoned lawyers like Professor Kindiki. It's not like a politician is just somebody who comes from the air. We are professionals first, and now then we are servants of the people because we work with the people, and that combination is going to make us come very handy in terms of delivering for the people of this country.
Away from that issue, I understand there is the matter of NCGDF and also the proposal by President to have a kitty for the Senate in its delivery for the counties. What is your take on the matter, especially NCGDF, considering that you served in this parliament?
I think people who talk about scrapping CDF, they should actually go and talk to the people themselves, because we have got so many devolved funds in this country, both at county level and national level. No fund works in this country like CDF, and I can bet you can even go and ask the people. CDF is here to stay. If you ask people to build the classrooms, give the bursaries, do security, police posts and all that, like CDF is an extremely effective fund, especially given that CDF has got no what we call overheads. You don't buy vehicles, you don't have lots of staff. Every penny voted for CDF goes directly to the people. And as a government, it's our policy that CDF is here to stay.
Senators operated without funds, especially senators, and now it's time they have the proposal proposed. How will it help in legislature, especially running the counties and the devolved functions?
First of all, there's the issue of oversight, because we know that the issue of how county governments are using the devolved funds, that there have been questions about that. But also in terms of ensuring that senators add their input in terms of need prioritization, so they can have a better discussion with governors and a better discussion with the Senate in terms of these are our priorities, because you don't expect somebody sitting in a lobby to have a good grip of what are the priorities of the people. So I think that fund, if only for mobility and set up structures to be able to get the needs of the people from the grassroots, is extremely essential.
Back to cabinet, the cabinet which President unveiled, there is the question of integrity and competence, which has been raised by Azimio and other members. Is it valid? Are they competent enough, the people who unveiled?
I think the Constitution is extremely clear on this particular issue. That when you raise he who alleges must prove, and until the issues are proven by a competent courts of law, they remain just that. They are just allegations. So I have not seen any convicted member of the cabinet being appointed. So unless somebody has got any evidence to the contrary, you cannot judge integrity from your own kitchen. Integrity is judged by the courts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's the Cabinet Secretary Designate for Trade, Investment and Industry. After the official opening today, next week, official business of Parliament begins. There is the majority and the minority agenda. There is the issue of constituting the committees chairs, and all the key positions in the National Assembly. So it's all about systems go now to actualize, including what was mentioned in the speech by the President. You've heard all the comments and what are the expectations, and this will be the main agenda when the House resumes. Of course, we expect the first few days when the House resumes, there will be the issue of discussing the President's speech, and there will be a lot of taking, and especially from the Azimio, which is now the opposition. Back to you in studio.
All right, thank you very much, Apollo Kumau, and obviously Elizabeth Mutuku, who are there, and the entire production team that has been camping at the Parliament buildings right here in Nairobi to keep us up to speed on the first joint meeting of the National Assembly and the Senate, where the President, William Ruto, has officially opened it. Because of time, I won't take you through it, but then in our subsequent bulletins, and obviously in game plan and in our 7 p.m. Bulletin, we'll be taking a look at all this and interviewing the Washimiwas, the leaders, to get to know this particular short and sweet